Hey writers, you were seeing me in a different environment. I am not in my usual place. I am actually in Philadelphia at the moment, um, visiting with a friend and working from here. I'll be heading back into the city today, but wanted to get this message to all of you, this video. And yeah, and in the note I sent you, I said I would share more in the video. Um, and I just wanted to let you all know that your professor is very human and has a three-dimensional life beyond this screen. And unfortunately, these last couple of weeks, I've been navigating a friend who was very, very sick, and I was part of the care team, and the friend has unfortunately passed away. And death is a part of our lives, and sometimes we need to pause or find a space to deal with it. It's been a really difficult moment because not only did my friend who had ALS die, that's Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a very debilitating disease. Um, but unfortunately, just by coincidence, around the same time, and even this past weekend, a second and third friend passed away of different things, cancer, etc. So I'm just navigating a lot of grief at the moment, but want to also stay to task and make some adjustments. And so I'm going to begin with the adjustments. So um, what the deadlines at this moment, everyone should have commented both on the second draft of the personal moment piece, and they should have commented on the first draft of the object piece. Um, I am still behind on myself, so I'm making an adjustment. If you have done all that, that is good, and you should stay on task. And so those people who are staying to task will get like some extra credit for doing that work and being on time. But the new deadlines for myself and for all of you is March 26th, and that's going to be the deadline to respond both for you to get your workshop responses in to both the second draft of the personal pivotal moment story and to the first draft of the object story, right? So the object story was due last night, the drafts, but the responses. But now I've shifted the deadline because I will also work on getting all of my responses to the objects and then following the pivotal moment ones. The object's second draft then is being moved from March 26th to April 7th, and I'm looking down because I have a paper here with the dates. And then the first draft of the next formal assignment. So you have four assignments. You've begun two. You've completed the second one or done two. The third one that joins them is something called Beyond Me. I'm going to talk about that. That's going to be due on the 14th. So the dates have shifted. So the deadlines of March 26th for all the writing and the responses is this Friday, March 26th, right before spring break, because that begins March 27th is officially spring break. So your responses are due then. So get them in before then, so you don't have to be responding over spring break. That's one. Then deadline, the next deadline is April 7th, and that will be the second draft of the object story. So you will have your feedback, you'll have some time, you can look at them in spring break or not, but when you get back from spring break, you have a couple days before that is due. And then the next deadline, writing deadline, is going to be April 14th, and that's the first draft of the Beyond Me assignment. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Beyond Me writing assignment. So the third assignment is called Beyond Me, right? Beyond Me, beyond ourselves. And very often what happens is that very often when we write about characters that are very much from like ourselves, from our own experiences. You know, many of our characters live in the same neighborhoods that we live in or come from the same boroughs that we live in. Um, and they're based in kind of a realistic place, right? So for the Beyond Me, part of the things in terms of growing and expanding as writers is that you can imagine like lives beyond the lives that you have. Some of you have written mystical or magical or fantastic stories, which is wonderful because then you get to create a world, right? You get to do world creating, right? World mapping. But so for the third formal writing assignment, the Beyond Me assignment, I'm asking you to think beyond yourselves, right? Beyond who you are, right? If I were to say myself, I'm middle-aged, my mid-50s. Grew up in the Bronx. I live in Harlem. I'm bald. I have, like whatever characteristics I used to describe myself. that I have that understanding. And then I'm going to go beyond me, beyond who I am. So what you need to do is think about that. Who are you and how do you go beyond you? And so some of the ways you will, some of the things you would think of are characteristics. So for instance, your character should have a different age, gender, race, culture, location, religious belief, sexual orientation, economic status. These are all the menu from which you can pick. But of course, there's more. And if you see anybody walk around or a cat, I'm just in someone else's house. It's fine. So so I'm giving you this list in Blackboard, but you don't have to pick all of them. You should pick at least three. Okay, and with those three appointments, I mean those three, excuse me, those three you could pick at least you could pick three, right? But not more than five, right? So think so somebody that is a different age, maybe you're somebody who is a different gender, and somebody who is, maybe lives in a different time period. Maybe this you can set your story in the 60s. It would be very different than somebody living today. Some of you might choose the future. That's different kind of research you need to do. But it could be a different religious belief. It could be a different sexual orientation. It could be a different economic status, like somebody who's very wealthy, somebody who's very poor, somebody who's middle class, depending. Somebody that's just three characteristics, at least three, that are different from your own lived experience, right? So that's one. Um, so at least three, but not more than five. The story should be between 4 and 5 pages, and it will be due April 14th, this assignment. I'm giving you a heads up because some of you are ahead of the game and are playing the task, and so that you can keep the flow, right? So by April 14th, it's due for everybody. But if people want to do it earlier and they want to get the assignment done, they could definitely do that as well. So you could upload it to the discussions board. It's ready in the discussions. It's all set up. So whenever you're ready to upload it, the same thing for the second draft of your object story. There's a folder that's already been created for that, so you can fill that in. And then for this group, for the Beyond Me story, that's due April 14th, I would create different groups. We'll shuffle things around, so you'll workshop different writers in the class for the Beyond Me story, and then you will stay with that story for the same thing for the first draft and for the second draft. So if you notice the pattern, right? You did one story, you had a workshop group, you workshopped the first draft and the second draft with that same group. Then you wrote a second story and you got a different group of students, and you workshopped that second story with the first draft and second draft with the same group. And now you're gonna have a third story, and you're gonna get a new group, and then you're gonna stick with that group. So I'm saying this just so you can keep it straight in your head because they start to overlap, right? So you understand which group goes with which story, and you're using your time efficiently. Um, I will say this, that if you do not respond or have not respond to both the second draft of the pivotal moment story or the first draft of the object story by Friday of this week, then the writers don't have to wait for your responses to do their revisions, right? They can move forward. And so this is where I say it's important to stay to task and stay to your responsibilities by not only uploading your stories on time so that other people have time to read them and organize them, because we're all managing our schedules, but also for you to give responses because students are waiting for their feedback, because that's how they're going to either affirm that they've written something good or something that's right on track, or they need to make some kind of revision. So all of us, me included, must get it done by this Friday. And if you don't, unfortunately, with you, because of you, that will affect your grade. So let me talk about grades for a minute, and then I want to talk about character development. So, of course, you're being graded by these major formal assignments. You have four of them. At the end, they will all total up to 60% of your grade. That's the majority of your grade, right? So it's important to do well, to think of your revisions well, to keep your grade at at a high level. The other big chunk of your grade is your responses, like how quickly you respond, how thoroughly you respond, right? I'm giving you guidelines on how to respond. So if you write one sentence, I really liked it, it was really good, I liked the characters, everything was wonderful. Great. That doesn't give somebody a lot of direction on how they need to develop their work to the next day. You have to be specific why you liked it, what you liked about it, and use the elements. Use character, use plot, use setting. I liked it because the character was strong. They said this, they did that. I liked the story because even if you can't think of anything that could be constructive, that they could improve upon or that you have a question about, if it's all clear to you, still explain very thoroughly what you liked about it. But that is also helpful, right? If somebody hears the character's strong, they made this move, and this is that, this plot, I had no questions about the setting. The setting was clear. I knew where they were at every moment in the story. The plot makes sense. There were no questions. I understand how things related to one another, like the time when in the story when he did this, and therefore he did that, and I understood that. So that's the kind of feedback your classmates deserve, right? Because you're all working really hard to get your pieces in there, and using your creativity and your imagination and your power, right? Your creative power. So so your responses also are an important part of your grade. They don't not as high, but still that's important, right? To do that. So all of your assignments, all of it contributes to your grade. So please do thorough, considerate responses to your workshop group members. And then by Friday of this week, if they have not responded, I mean your personal object story, the second draft isn't due till April 7th now, so you have time to work on it, but you don't have to, beyond that point, don't wait for them. All right. So I just want to, since your next assignment is about character development, I want to talk a little bit about that. So I've given you, I think, at least one thorough handout the last time we spoke on character development that I uploaded. And so I just have a few tips and guidelines on character development. It's listed in your assignments. When you go to Blackboard, you will see it, right? You will see the course content in it. You will see, go to the discussion. It's going to explain what I just said about, writing from a different experience, giving you a list of characteristics that you can consider could be different, that it's 4 to 5 pages. You should use MLA formatting, and that you'll get new workshop groups. But then after this is workshop, the next draft is not going to be due till April 25th, and then the final draft is due on May 19th when you do your final portfolio. So in creating character development, I have what is character development? It's showing how it's creating a character and then showing how your character responds to obstacles, both internal, like what's going on in their brain and their mind, their fears, their worries, and external, what things may be happening in the world, other characters, conditions, the weather, political, all these things that affect the character, right? Internal and external, and how they might change by the end of the story. And I put the word might because maybe you're writing a different kind of character, but that's the idea, that there is some kind of arc, whether it's the plot has an arc, the character has an arc, right? So in many classics, those, especially some of you have written stories that have happy endings, and that's why I always say create more challenges, create the situation that makes us cheer at the end. You create more obstacles, and so that way the character can learn skills and develop strengths and maybe make different decisions as they go along the story, so that at the end it's heroic or triumphant, right? And then since you're writing short stories, consider at least one obstacle in the beginning so that we can ignite the rising action of the story. And then another one that is that is the climactic one, right? The one they need to get over, and then, or whatever it is needs to happen so that they could then move on and achieve the thing that they want, right? If you were writing novels, the arc would look different. The obstacles, there'd be many, 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 many more obstacles you can put in a person's way. And sometimes after they overcome something else as a result of that, they have to face something new. There is kind of hero stories, like stories of in the Odyssey, or stories of, where the protagonist has to fight many wars and get many things. And what do they want? They want to get home, and they're struggling to get home, and they're away from home. And there's all these obstacles that are keeping them from being home. So so think of that. So the more challenges they face, the better for your story. But keep in mind you're writing a short story, so they resist the temptation to make life too easy for them, but don't make it so insurmountable that you need the space of a novel to resolve their issues. And then I'm going to give you some steps for character development. And one is give the readers a look at your character. What do they look like, right? How does your character look? You should have an idea in your brain how this character looks. How tall are they? How wide are they? What kind of hair do they have? Are they bald? Are they black? Are they white? Are they Latinx? Are they Asian? What do they look like? You know, Give them a backstory, a history. Like, what was their life before this story began? Before you began that first line, what was their life like? Who were they? Right? What was their home life like? Did they grow up with two parents? Was it stable? Was it not stable? Was it strong? Was it one parent? Was it loving? Was it cold? What was their life like before the story began? Make sure they're human, vulnerable, flawed, right? Like multidimensional. Vulnerable means that they aren't like the superhero, like even Superman had kryptonite, right? There was something that was vulnerable. But then also don't make them only vulnerable, right? But make them multidimensional. So give them virtues or even heroic qualities. Heroic quality doesn't mean that they could fly and lift a car or save the world, but a heroic quality could be kindness. That they may be like messed up in some ways, but they're a sweet person. Establish what does your character want. I say that a lot in some of your feedbacks. Like, what did they want? Do they want a better life, a parent's approval, a raise at work, the fighting to stop in their house, right? To attract someone, right? To move to a new place, right? Or maybe to save the world. Maybe it is that big that you decide they want to save the world. But so remember, emphasize their inner life. That means their thoughts and feelings, and also their surface problems and things that affect them from outside. I write show and tell, right? And that a little bit it deals with, when I'm talking about character, I'm talking about direct and indirect characterization. You can go, we have a handout, go to Intro to Creative Writing. In it, I talk about direct and indirect characterization. Direct is when you tell them the character's tall, the character's this, the character's angry, telling, right? And then showing is when you show what the character looks like, right? Through their actions, through maybe another character seeing them or experiencing them, that you're showing characterization through indirect characterization, through not telling people directly what the character looks like. And then the last 2 points, really conduct research, because when you're creating a character that maybe they're set in the 1960s and the 1980s, that maybe the character is Muslim and you're not, and you want to explore that. Maybe a character is, you know, wealthy, or you know, I'm just trying to think of different things. Kind of do some research, right? And research could be online. Research could be talking to other people that maybe, let's say if I was going to write a character that was Jewish and I had a friend who was Jewish, maybe we have a relationship, so I know some information from it. But maybe to go deeper, I might want to talk to my friend. I think I'm creating a character that is Jewish and he wants to marry a woman who's Christian, and so, or Muslim. And so what do you think about that? Like, what would be your reaction? What might you, and he might say things like, well, depending on how orthodox, how much they practice, whether this, the relationship with the parents, her relationship. So you might learn more by speaking to someone, or you just go online and look it up. And I kind of leaked into it a little bit because I said if you were writing about somebody that was different, maybe there's somebody in your life. So even though I'm really encouraging you to do research, you should also be thinking about, you can also draw from your own experience. So it is about creating a character that's beyond you, but you don't leave yourself completely out of it. You're creating it, right? You're writing it. You're not going into a trance and somebody's taking over your body and you're going to be writing a story. That's not how it works, right? How it works is that you're thinking, you're creating, and you're going to write it, right? You're going to make it happen. So, so certainly, if you have questions, you can not text me. You can email me, and send me a note, and that's what we have for now. So we've adjusted some of the due dates that are coming up. We talked about the next assignment, which is the Beyond Me, and I gave you a little bit of instruction on character development, because that's really your next story is a character-driven piece. It's a piece that begins with the idea of a character, and then you're going to build a story around it. So keep up the great work. The stories that I've read, I've really enjoyed. I've had the opportunity to meet some of you through office hours, through some of you have shown up to the writing together. So yeah, just keep up the great work, and and we'll keep trucking and moving, right? And definitely take care of yourselves, right?